This is Scorched Vine, a Vin Noir's production of Hope's Nocturne, written by OPL Noir, performed by Carrie Storm. This is Chapter 1, Part 2. Please, don't stop now, Amanda fumed. What kind of explanation is that? She bellowed in her head, mentally flinging her arms up and rolling her eyes. Amanda foraged around in her head, digging through recent memories for an image of someone named Macon. The faces at the funeral were too many to pick out an individual. She delved further back into the past. Since her mother mentioned knowing him, she tried picking through the faces of men who came to their house, men her mother stopped to speak to in passing. However, none stood out or appeared idiotic. And he is an idiot, Amelia reiterated after her minute of reapplying makeup. I knew him when he barely had 2 cents to rub together. He's got even less now. She chuckled. I knew him when he only had half a suit to wear because a jacket was out of range. I knew him when he wasn't too big for his breeches because all he had were hand-me-downs, and they were usually too big for him. She threw her head back, laughing this time. Please, Amanda opined, her mouth ajar. Make some more noise. I think there's an old dead neighbor a few streets away who may not know we're making fools of ourselves in this procession. She inwardly hissed at them, still scowling at the backs of their heads. I'm already going to hear about this in school on Monday. The shame. Caught out in lime green bell-bottoms. A few torturous moments later, Amelia continued. Then out of the blue, their family's grapes are the best in the region. She abruptly stopped, then grasped Leah's shoulders. Amanda rolled her eyes at the excessive histrionics. They became one of the largest growers in the country. Her eyes narrowed, and her arms and red nails spread wide, pointing at something in the distance. They got big. She paused. So big that not only did they have a float in the festival, but their family's crest and seal also occupied pride of place among the wine producers. Banners. Leah gasped. Exactly. I watched from the sidelines. Macon had every woman from Canacal to Azotonis on a hook. Not me, though. I knew better. He thought his feet too refined to touch native soil. She chuckled. Then, just as quickly, I watched him fall flat on his face. Sour grapes? Amanda wondered. I'm getting some jealousy with a little revenge for the motive on the excessive ice. But why? Amanda puzzled. If I'm going to roast in this blazing sun, Miss Mission Impossible, the least you can do is make sense. How am I supposed to tie up loose ends and give a report? What are you jealous of? You've got money. He has none. You don't dig in the dirt at home, let alone in a vineyard. Tugging on 2 tight shoulder straps, she missed a renegade hibiscus somehow blooming on the desolate sidewalk. Stumbling, she yelped, but managed to stay upright. Watch where you're walking, Amelia scolded. And don't be so clumsy. You could have dropped the dish. I also could have stayed at home, Amanda protested. But then I'd miss whoever was going to be at the gathering. Maybe I can make a new friend. She glanced down at her bell-bottoms, cringing at the prospect of being seen in them. And for the record, lime green really is not my color. Whoever she is, I hope she doesn't hold it against me. Now, satisfied with her dish's safety, Amelia continued. And this is the part I'm not so sure about. Supposedly, Macon gained the attention of a very large wine producer. A merger of their families could have been very lucrative for both vineyards, the entire region. Any reasonable person would have jumped at the opportunity. A good son would have done his best for his family. They were both nodding at this point. These producers were willing to overlook everything. Macon's lack of name, money, or manners wouldn't have mattered. Apart from their recent success, they were just poor farmers. They showed up with just a shirt on their backs. World War I impoverished imports from France. His problem was that he forgot who he really was, forgot his place. If he'd used the good sense God gave him, he'd have seized the opportunity to raise his family's standing. The welfare of his family, however, he couldn't be bothered with. Instead, he married some sub-Saharan Nebbiolo, as he liked to call her. The idiot. They were penniless in less than a year. He didn't look so good after that. All that potential. Who knows how far they could have gone? And she should have known better, venturing outside of her sphere, as if that kind of thing could go unnoticed. The wharf rat. You know, there's a good reason why her kind are stuck in that little fishing village off the coast. They're dirty and violent. Nobody likes them. And what good did all that love do them? They stuck out like sore thumbs. Now their children are penniless, indigent, insignificant outcasts. My family were World War II impoverished imports, homeless but for the open arms and generosity of this empire. Is that how you see us? Leah inquired, her tone lower than Amanda remember ever hearing it. Amelia glared at her. You know what I mean. You're different. You're one of us. You look like us, not like those dregs of society, she said, visibly shivering with disdain. Bunch of unwashed leeches on society. Useless, worthless trash. Amelia mumbled under her breath. No life is worthless. Leah's head snapped towards Amelia, her voice containing a sudden steel that hadn't been there before. Every individual has value. None of us has the ability to determine the outcome of a life. What we, in our limited wisdom, underestimate as detritus often are the people who embody the solutions to some of our most perplexing problems. Leah's features were suddenly stark. Lines that weren't there a minute ago were now etched across her forehead. Her voice contained a severity Amanda had never heard from the woman before. It is in part the inability, willful or otherwise, to appreciate the brilliance in each person that led to the massacre of millions, she growled, her tone and pitch climbing with each word. The scope of loss the world suffered is immense. Paintings, architecture, stories, and proofs that will never be written. It is staggering. The death of generations by the loss of each individual. She was hyperventilating with each word. It was easy to see the intensity with which she felt this loss she spoke of. Amanda tiptoed even closer, wondering if she would see the woman vibrate with anger. It didn't start on the 12th of March, 1938, when they marched into Austria and peace, as we know it, fell. It didn't start in 1933, when they underestimated the evil embodied in one man. No, it started long before, when men like Karl Lueger vilified and denigrated those whom society was unwilling to understand, therefore inspiring that evil. It started when the upstanding of society dehumanized with words like you just used those they didn't understand, sanctioning violence against their neighbors. Amelia huffed. Easy for you to say. You have Paolo, she said, throwing her head back with an air of aloofness. I don't have time to wax poetic about the plight of the unfortunate. I have 2 girls, she held up 2 fingers, with no son in sight. I've got my own problems to focus on. That's what my family thought too, Leah sighed, followed with a bittersweet laugh of her own. So many thought that way. It was someone else's problem. It's over there, not here. It wasn't us. We were citizens. Of course, we found out we were wrong. She stopped, turning towards Amelia. She frowned. It never pays to look the other way. A generation later, and we're still feeling that lesson. Bowing her head, she continued, I often wonder what could have been if we hadn't lost so many. Do you know they snapped up the McLeod factory? Amelia announced, continuing to walk as if nothing had been said. The company was well run, cash flow was positive, and there was no question of succession. None of that mattered, though. Someone in the guild wanted it, so they seized it. Amanda almost gasped, catching herself before permitting the sound to slip out. This was the most important thing she'd ever heard the woman say. Not for the first time. She wished she could retrieve her notepad to annotate each word. Who knew you had it in you? Amanda wondered, staring at Leah. And here I thought all you cared about was etiquette. That was worth the price of admission. The sad truth was, regardless of how inspiring Leah's words were, Amanda knew she'd likely not see much of the woman again because, according to her father, the one thing you never did was correct Amelia, no matter how wrong she was. Amanda forgot her position again, inching closer. She'd hoped to catch more pearls. When both women turned and frowned at her, she heard Lily and Anna gasp. She'd really been busted this time, caught eavesdropping again, her cardinal sin. Shortening her stride, she fell back in step along with the other girls, her sister Anna and Leah's daughter Lily. No comments from the peanut gallery, please, she mentally chastised them. While waiting for the girls' chatter to rise in frequency and volume again, Amanda wondered what the consequences would be if she got caught for a third time. She swallowed hard before stepping up to eavesdrop on Leah and her mother. Just what are you up to, Amelia? And before you answer that, remember, not just his children, but also yours will be at the gathering, Leah reminded her. So mind your descriptors. Amanda tuned out the girls, stereophonic gossip bombarding her, zoning in on the adults again. Things were finally getting interesting. She frowned and watched her mother adjust the diamond around her neck, then winced, finally understanding her father's use of the words excessive assets, as the woman gave yet another noticeable heft to her décolletage. Is that a new rock? She realized for the first time, and it covers a bit more skin, so it's bigger. Dad, maybe you should have sent an armed guard instead of me. I'll be networking, Amelia answered, giving a delicate shrug. Opportunity isn't always polite. You've got it easy with Lily and Paolo. While I won't have a problem situating Anna with a good prospect, one who will mesh easily with our company and appreciate the opportunity he's being given, I'll have to get very creative with Amanda. And that doesn't come cheap, Amanda scowled. And that's what I get for eavesdropping. Anyway, to answer your earlier question, she was apparently going to skip over what she considered unpleasant comments by her friend. She cost their community a lot of money. Or rather, their marriage cost people a lot of money, Amelia said, flinging the assumption aside with a flick of her wrist. Look, it really doesn't matter. I'm not stupid, and their loss will be my gain. Amelia, Leah chided, you sound like a fishmonger, plying your wares, networking. It's a wake. Who's going to be there to network with? And please do explain exactly what she did to cost them money. As a woman, you know how hard it is to get ahead. As far as I'm concerned, nothing is off the table. If it gets me what I want and what I need to get my family ahead, then fishmonger it is, Amelia retorted, shoving the waistline of her pants lower on her hips. As for who'll be there, I suspect some of the larger growers who weren't at the funeral would likely show up to pay their respects to Miss Sabine. There may even be a producer or two, Amelia sighed. Anyway, do you remember the last few festivals? Yes. Why? Are you going to ask them for a float? Leah chuckled, shaking her head. Yes, I am, Amelia deadpanned, sounding sober as a judge. There isn't anything I won't do to advance our business. A float will give us the exposure we need. She waved her hand down the length of her body. But back to Macon, she sighed, obviously burdened by what she was about to reveal. He could have had it all. His family would have been set for generations. They made wine, Leah. They should have been producers. They were headed in that direction. They even had their own float. So marrying her cost them a lot of money. I understand that, Leah shrugged. But they could have kept on producing. I don't think it's fair to blame her for their failure to produce. Life isn't fair. The region and everyone who depended on that union were left high and dry. The once great Sabine family is now broken. Their crest was removed, and she is dead. No one cares if it was fair. If the guild says you don't produce, then I guess you are as dry as the people you stepped on. She should have turned him down. Would you have turned him down if you loved him, I mean? Leah asked, her voice low, tinged with sadness. I would. Turn him down or love him? Leah asked. Both, Amelia answered. Both? Who is this Macon? Could this really be about money and some idiot named Macon? Amanda wondered, replaying her father's edict. Who's going to be at that gathering? This has been Hope's Nocturne, Chapter 1, Part 2, Hope's Destitute Boy. We hope you enjoyed this recording. You can join us every Thursday for another chapter.